Welcome everybody. We are the Humanitarian Games Network, an initiative in Cologne Game Lab where we try to collect knowledge regarding humanitarian games and the intersection between humanitarian initiatives and digital games is why we have interviews with people like our guest today, Saja Al Addasi. Saja Al Addasi holds a bachelor's degree in water and environmental engineering from the German Jordanian University in Jordan and a master's degree in integrated water resources management from TH Köln in Germany. She brings a lot of professional experience in international NGOs, development, and humanitarian sectors. As a part of her master's research, Saja also developed the game WATERISK, an educational game designed to aid education in urban water risk management and resilience planning. Her main interests include urban water management, climate change, and adaptation, and nature-based solutions as pathways toward building more resilient and sustainable cities. Saja, we are very happy to have you today. Whenever you're
Thank you.
ready, feel free to start screen sharing and take it away.
Thank you, Khaled, for this nice introduction, and the pleasure is mine. I'm happy also to be here and present my game. Just let me have 1 minute to share my screen. Okay. I developed a serious board game called WATERISK, and it's a serious board game to aid education in urban water management, and I will be talking about it more in a bit. But before, just to give a quick outline about my presentation today, I will be giving a game overview, then I will be talking about the game itself and the objective behind it, and then I will give a background about the terminologies that I'm talking about, for example, the urban water management, water sensitive urban design, and also a background about Amman, because the game is basically customized to be played in Amman, Jordan. And then iterations about how I reached to this game design, basically, because as I mentioned, it was part of my master thesis, and as you heard, my background is nothing related to gaming or game design, so I had to learn everything from scratch by myself. So it took me a while until I reached the current final game version. And then I will give a quick conclusion and the way forward, or what I'm planning ahead. So to start with, again, the game's title is WATERISK, and from the name itself, it's basically two words, water and risk. And it's basically a cooperative, educational, strategic, serious board game. And for those who are familiar with commercial board games, it's very much inspired from the game Pandemic. The setting of the game is in Amman, the capital of Jordan. And it's mainly aimed at bachelor university students with water management related majors, but also can be played from junior professionals as well. And the main idea behind the game is that players take on roles to manage the city's water resources against different challenges related to water. This is an overview of the board itself. Basically, it's a map of Amman city with different areas, and as you can see, there are a scale at the bottom of the board related to the hazard, and then we have 4 different hazards or issues that the players will be playing upon. And then we have around each area stars that represent elevation, social status, and population density in each area. The game has 8 roles with their pounds, and of course the role description. And then we have player cards, hazard cards, event cards, emergency cards, and solution cards. And then we have hazard cubes that needs to be distributed among the map. We have solution tokens and scoring indicators. to talk about the game components in a bit of more detail, the characters of the game, I generated the images through AI to make them look and try to, as much as possible, to make them look as Oriental and gave them Oriental names to resonate more with the players. And the role titles and powers, I tried to make them depicting reality as much as possible. For example, we have in the game a Minister of Water and Irrigation, a mayor, community-based organization member, a farmer, a citizen, etc. Then the player cards, they are, each card has like a name of the area in Amman. They're color coded depending on the hazards that we have in the game, and each area has 4 cards for each card for each hazard. Then I have the emergency cards. So in the game, there are 6 emergency cards, and the game can be played with 2, 4, or 6. So the number of the emergency cards in the game determine its level or intensity. And there is, of course, a guide card on how to use the emergency card. So first, like when you draw an emergency card, you have to increase the hazard indicator by 1, and then draw a card and put cubes into the game and shuffle them into the card deck to make it even harder. Then we have the events cards. So those are a group of positive events. When you draw a card of these, it gives you a one-time power to play it. For example, the remote solution, it makes you remove any 2 cubes from the board. So any 2 hazards from the board, which makes the game a bit easier for the players. Then we have the hazard cards. Those again have area names in Amman and also color coded depending on the hazards that we have in the game, but also have the names of the hazards. So for example, yellow is for drought, blue is for floods, and then red for water pollution, purple for infrastructure deterioration. And each turn, each player should draw a minimum of 2 cards from the deck. And finally, we have the solutions cards in the game. So there are 8 different solutions that 6 of them depict the water-sensitive urban design, and 1 a gray infrastructure solution, and 1 solution related to governance or water pricing. And each solution has a specific impact and a specific price that the players have to pay in order to implement this solution. Those were the game components in general and quick. And also I will be quick on how to play the game. It's a bit long to explain how to play it, but I will try to make it short and just sum it up in short. So basically, the game is designed to play by a minimum of 2 players and a maximum of 5. First of all, the players should set the board in a specific way, distribute the cards in their places, and then distribute the cubes based on a specific rule. And then they have to shuffle the player's cards. So each player gets a set of cards from the player's deck. The number of the cards that the players get depends on how many players are in the game. So for example, if 2 players only are playing, they get 4 cards each. 3, they get 3, and 4 players or 5 players get 2 cards each. Then in each turn, the current player whose turn is has to take up to 4 actions, and they can choose which actions they want to do, and then they have to draw 2 cards from the player deck and do whatever the cards tell them to do. The actions include move, jump, sprint, mitigate, implement a solution, or share resources. So each one of those are considered an action, and they can take up to 4 actions. The game basically is over when the players lose the game, if one of the following conditions occur. So it's a collective game, so it's either the whole players lose or everyone wins. And they will lose if the cubes of any color are finished from the board, and the player needs to add a cube of those into the board. And if the player's deck is finished, and if the players have reached the X on the hazard indicator that was shown on the board before. And the game ends in victory for the players collectively when they make the city safe again. So that is when the players have removed all the cubes and solved all the hazards from the board and implemented a solution that corresponds to each one of the challenges. So basically they have to remove all the cubes, and then they have to have at least one solution implemented for each one of the challenges. And that's where they win the game. The main overall objective of the game or aim is to collaborate, to have the students collaborate together in order to mitigate the spread of 4 challenges. Those are flood, water pollution, drought, and infrastructure damage, before they reach a critical threshold that ends the game. And then I had secondary objectives, which are related more to the educational aspect, since it's a serious game. So those are that I need the students to experience collaborative work as they negotiate and think strategically about prioritizing solutions and interventions and balancing the needs for a safe city. And also I need the students or the players to learn the interlinkages between the different challenges, which represent the complexity of the real world's water management. Because while playing the game, the distribution of the cubes that are spread on the board, sometimes if you get one hazard, it may affect another hazard, and you have to distribute then 2 hazards on the board. I mean, saying it theoretically may sound a bit complicated, but it actually depicts the real world's interlinkages between, for example, floods and water pollution, and how when a flood occurs in an area, it might take pollution from one source to another source, or from one point to another. So that was one of the objectives, is that to have students learn about these interlinkages between the challenges. So to give a quick background about what is it and the terminologies that I'm using, for those who are not from a water management background. Basically, serious gaming in the past decade is becoming so much popular in different majors and in different backgrounds, especially in urban water management. A lot of organizations and a lot of actually universities around the world are trying to incorporate creative means of educational or didactic means. So they're using serious games nowadays. Probably the challenges lie in integrating those approaches within the educational system, but a lot of approaches are taking place. The term water-sensitive urban design is an integrative approach to include the whole water cycle within your system. And some technologies related to this is the green roofs, for example, or the permeable pavements, or the bioretention basins. Those are all considered water-sensitive urban design solutions. Also, to give a small background about the area that the game is talking about, or the game is based in. So Amman is the capital of Jordan. It's a governorate that lies in the northeastern part of Jordan. And then inside Amman governorate, we have Amman city, which is in the yellow map. Amman has semi-arid climate, and it's a water-poor country with annual rainfall of 250 millimeters per year. And the water share per capita is less than 100 cubic meter per capita per year, which is so much less than the threshold, the world threshold for water-poor countries. And Jordan's population is around 11 million, in which 4.75 million reside in Amman. 90%, around 90% of Amman is urban areas. And the main challenges that the city goes through is that the infrastructure there is pretty old, which makes it deteriorating. And we have a huge percentage of non-revenue water, and this is the water lost due either to theft or due to leakages from old infrastructure or so. Of course, like any other city around the world nowadays, we also have problems or challenges from climate change, which is also leading to flash floods. Last year or 2 years ago, the downtown area in Amman was flooded because of flash floods, and a lot of areas also are having this challenge. I will, as mentioned before, so this game was part of my master thesis. So of course I didn't come up with the game easily or directly, but I went through some iterations until I reached this part of the game. I will just go through them quickly. Just what was at the beginning, and then how did it evolve to become this board that you saw already, or this prototype that you saw. So when I started at the beginning, the game was totally different. I did something, I was thinking around Monopoly, because Monopoly is a childhood game that everyone knows, and we used to play a lot as children in Jordan. So I want something to play on the emotional side, and for everybody or anyone who plays the game to resonate or to connect with this game. So it was basically a roll and move game with a part of negotiations, and I had Amman's map in the middle, and some scenario cards where just players negotiate with each other until they find until they agree upon a solution for the scenario or for the challenge. But of course, it had so many. I did a playtest, as you can see, and then I had so many observations and challenges because the rules were not complete, and it had limited replayability because the scenarios were limited also. It overlaid on randomness, and yeah, I had some missing data and so on. So I had to amend, and then I amended the prototype a bit, but it was still around Monopoly. And I incorporated some emergency scenarios, and I tried to enhance the game feel. But still, and I also did a playtest, but still, like it was incomplete and imbalanced rules, and it had statisticals flow. So I had to change the whole idea behind the game, or the whole theme that I'm working upon. So that's when I started thinking differently about or different games, and I started thinking more complicated, and that's where I reached to do something pandemic inspired, and I did this prototype that you saw. I changed the means of playing to become a cooperative game and action point system and variable player power instead of just roll and move. And I had different game components. I did a playtest at the beginning with some students at TH Köln. It's a bit long rules explanation, and but still like and a long game duration. But it was so much better, and it had replayability so much better than the previous iterations, of course. I still had some amendments to do, and then I did some. I did like a playtest with some students from the Cologne Game Lab. I also had some amendments suggested, which needed to be incorporated to make the game feel better, and the game visuals as well. But for now, this is like the let's say the final current game that I have reached upon. As a conclusion, I mean, as you saw, there were many challenges throughout the process, but also there were many opportunities as well. To integrate the game design with its educational objectives, especially for someone who had no idea about game design or gaming, and had no idea about how to develop a board game. But the feedback from playtesters and educators and the game designers ensured successive iterations and a relevant and engaging educational game. And the game has evolved significantly from the inception phase, where it started as a Monopoly-inspired game, until the current version where I'm at. And while the design game has reached a functional and engaging level, it's still in the refinement stage, as I mentioned. There are still a lot of improvements needed, and potential for future scalability also. When it's improved and when it's fully playable, there would be a potential for future scalability. Yeah, as I said, additional refinements and playtests are needed before the development of a finalized version that can be studied for its impact on educational outcomes. So basically, since it's still, the game is in its refinement stages and it's not like the final version, so I haven't actually studied the impact of the game on its education, on the educational objectives that I have. So the game needs refinements until it's a final, so that I can study the actual impact of it. And does it do like what it's intended to do or not? The limitations that I currently have in to complete the game and to to test it is that I have a limited access to playtesters, especially that I am currently out of Jordan. So I think that in order to study better the game and to know better whether it's doing its function or not, it needs to be studied on or tested on students from Jordan. I have limited access to player testers, especially from Jordan. And also like the acceptance of people to test the game is also, or to find a suitable date and time for everyone is also like a limitation. Also, my expertise makes it a bit limited, but this is like not a huge limitation. As mentioned, the actual impact is not assessed, and the field access to Jordan again. As a way forward, as mentioned, I'm trying to incorporate the game amendments from the 4th iteration to enhance the game haptics and visuals and feel, and to make it more easier and player friendly. Then I'm looking forward to scaling up the game and incorporating more elements, maybe translating it into Arabic, and maybe then later digitalizing it, or even customizing the game on demand for different areas. Of course, when customizing the game for different areas, it has to be also the challenges has to be customized based on the challenges that these cities have. And then I want to develop also structured debriefing sessions for the game, so that a debriefing session would be done before the game. And maybe later on, after like the game is finalized, I can have like partnerships with higher educational institutions or NGOs, etc. That was my game, and thank you so much for listening and for your attention. And the floor is open for any questions.
Thank you so much, Saja. That was actually, you know when you've enjoyed a presentation and you come out of it learning something new. And
Yeah.
I think this definitely applies to your presentation here. I think it was very, very thorough, and you explained the game very well. I know that it would definitely, like, because I also come from that part of the world, it would definitely make a huge difference to test between Jordanian youth and like how they dealt with the floods and so on, because it is, I get the same problems in Cairo, getting flooded every 2 years or something. But my question is, in your research, did you include, I know you studied water management, but like, how did you research how people react to floods and so on within Amman, for example?
This was not part of my research, like to study how people react for floods, because my game was more educational for university students, basically. And that's what we study in the university, like how to mitigate floods and what interventions, as in physical interventions to do in the city in order to mitigate floods. So studying how people react to flood was not part of my research, but of course there are a lot of journal papers and researches that are already done in that regard, and I came through some in while doing my research, and of course it's like people are so much annoyed, or so it's you know, I can't find the right word in English, but people are so much annoyed from floods, especially when the flash flood happened 2 years ago in the downtown. A lot of people with shops had their shops drawn or flooded, and they lost like thousands of dinars or thousands of Jordanian dinars because of floods. Their goods got ruined and destroyed. So you can feel that people are definitely not happy about the effects or the impacts of climate change that is happening.
Yes, I was asking more about like the knowledge base, how to react immediately. Because, for example, in my country, we're always dealing with a problem of education of everybody in terms of like everyday safety, right? But it seems like you designed the game more for professionals dealing with floods and so on, right?
Yes, the game is more designed to people with related majors related to water management, so they have already like a basic knowledge about what, like when we say the term water sensitive urban design, or when we say the term permeable pavements or the solutions, like they're more familiar with the terms and with the solutions themselves. So it's more designed into related major students or early or junior professionals.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Saja? Thank you very, very much. That was very well presented, and I really enjoyed the presentation. So thank you, and stay in touch with the Humanitarian Games Network. We'd love to have you again and again. So yeah, absolutely. All right.
Thank you so much, Khaled, and thank you, everyone.